This course is Introduction to Philippine Criminal Justice System. Hello there! I am Jamaica Kim Alma Banglo and I will be your facilitator for this lesson. I hope everybody will learn something on this topic. Are you ready to learn? Let's start! We are still on our Module 1 Basic Concepts of Criminal Justice System with our Lesson 3 Components of Criminal Justice System. The lesson includes the criminal justice system in the United States and in the Philippines. We will determine their differences by understanding their pillars. At the end of the lesson, we should be able to differentiate the pillars of the criminal justice system in America and in the Philippines. In all our lessons, I have some few reminders. First, you need to stay focused. Listen to the lesson and understand what is the lecture all about. The second reminder is, you need to have your pen, paper, and module ready. Because one of the most effective ways in order to grasp knowledge is to take down notes. I am not telling you to write it all down, but you need to focus on the main idea, as well as it will serve as an aid in reviewing your lessons. And the third reminder is, if you have any questions, you can post it in our group or in our educational platform. These are all the contents of the presentation. It has the lesson, learning objectives, the discussion, learning activity, learning assessment, and learning sources. If you are ready, then let's start. Just click the button to begin. Let us start our lesson by discussing the pillars of the United States of America. The first component of the criminal justice system in America is law enforcement. Individuals in this component include patrol officers, sheriffs and deputies, federal agents, game and park rangers, detectives, and other individuals that usually make first contact with criminals. These individuals are responsible for upholding the law, investigating crime, and apprehending the individuals responsible for committing the crime. Law enforcement individuals must be knowledgeable of the individual rights of suspected offenders such as the Miranda rights, search and seizure rights, and reasonable stops to name a few. Officers also need to be aware of citizens and civil rights so as not to violate those rights or compromise an investigation if a crime was indeed committed. The second component of the criminal justice system is the courts. When you ask, how does the criminal justice system work? The courts are one of the essential pieces of the puzzle. Key individuals in play in this component of the U.S. justice system include judges, prosecutors, defense lawyers, and jury members. Many of these positions are held by elected officials such as county and district attorneys and judges. Defense attorneys are generally private practice attorneys who specialize in certain areas of the law, such as family law or drug law, and are hired by a defendant. Public defenders or defense attorneys who are appointed to individuals who cannot afford an attorney. These defenders are either appointed from a public defender office or are part of a rotating pro bono requirement from the court. For example, in some family law courts, the public defenders are private attorneys in the area who are regularly hired by clients but will rotate taking case pro bono for clients who need a court-appointed attorney. Jury members are selected from the pool of registered voters in a court's jurisdiction and then further selected into a group of 6 to 12 members by the attorneys involved in the case before a trial begins. This position is minimally compensated, but it is a part of citizens' responsibilities. The individuals in the court component work to ensure an individual's rights are not violated and a fair trial takes place. juries, and judges play a part in sentencing individuals for crimes committed, but they must each follow guidelines established by state and federal statutes. The third component of the American criminal justice system is corrections. The corrections component includes probation officers, parole officers, and corrections officers. These individuals ensure that a convicted offender serves his or her sentence as advised by the courts and supervises the convicts as they service their sentences. Corrections officers supervise inmates that are being housed and serving sentences in prison. Corrections officers can also be found in county and city jails where inmates serve sentences for misdemeanors or being detained before or during trial. Probation officers, on the other hand, supervise adult and juvenile offenders who are being monitored by the courts in lieu of serving a sentence in jail. Probation officers also conduct pre-sentence investigations for the courts, giving recommendations for sentencing to a judge with compilation of information. Pre-sentence investigation involve gathering criminal history, interviews of friends, family, and colleagues of the convicted, and offering a recommendation of sentencing to the court. They also continually report progress of the probationer to the courts and make recommendations of possible revocation. Parole officers provide supervision of individuals released from prison early on parole, conducting home visits, drug tests, enforcing adherence of parole terms, also making recommendations of revocation when terms are broken. So we are done with the American criminal justice system, which has three pillars. Now, in our Philippine criminal justice system, we have five pillars. The first pillar of the Philippine criminal justice system is the law enforcement. It consists mainly of the Philippine National Police, the National Bureau of Investigation, Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, Anti-Money Laundering Council, Armed Forces of the Philippines, and 34 other related agencies. These agencies are at the forefront of the criminal justice system of the country. They directly deal with the citizens and are directly exposed to the criminal elements. Clearly, it is thus necessary that the member agencies within this pillar are both trained and well-oriented with the ways of civil society. Their work consists of the prevention and control of crimes, enforcement of laws, and effecting the arrest of offenders, including the conduct of lawful searches and seizure, to gather necessary evidence so that a complaint may be filed at the prosecutor's office. Identified as the first point of contact with the community, this pillar initiates the criminal justice system machinery upon arresting a person believed to be a suspect. The second pillar is the prosecution pillar, which is composed of the National Prosecution Service of the Department of Justice, Office of the Ombudsman, and the Public Attorney's Office. While the focus of this pillar is the speedy disposition of cases, its principal task is the investigation of criminal complaints emanating from the community and the law enforcement agencies, and bringing these complaints to their successful prosecution in the judicial system. The prosecution pillar conducts preliminary investigation of cases filed in the prosecutor's office and prosecutes cases filed in the court against alleged offenders after probable cause is established. The court is the third pillar of the Philippine criminal justice system, which adjudicates cases and renders judgment. The Philippine judiciary is a four-tiered court system consisting of the Supreme Court as the highest court of the land, the intermediate courts consisting of the Court of Appeals, Sandigan Bayan, and Court of Tax Appeals, the second-level courts, which consist of the regional trial courts and the Sharia district courts, and the first-level courts consisting of metropolitan trial courts, municipal trial courts in cities, municipal trial courts, and municipal circuit trial courts, and Sharia circuit courts. The goal of the court pillar is not merely to adjudicate cases, but to do so in accordance with the rule of law and without sacrificing the quality of justice. Interestingly enough, the overall performance of the criminal justice system may be determined by the court pillar. Many of the factors that affect the disposition of a litigation, such as those that are in relation to the procurement of witnesses and evidence, the determination of probable cause, and the like, are clearly outside of the control of the judiciary. Nevertheless, because the litigation process brings all of these factors together, the performance of the courts therefore would serve to synthesize to large extent the overall performance of the criminal justice system. The fourth pillar is the correction. So compromising the correction pillar are the jails and prison administered by the Bureau of Corrections, the Bureau of Jail Management and Technology, and by the local government units with regard to provincial and sub-provincial jails. The Philippine National Police likewise maintains detention facilities in its different police stations nationwide. The corrections pillars may also be classified into two. We have institution-based and we have community-based corrections. On one hand, the institution-based corrections include prisons and jails, which house prisoners serving terms of imprisonment under detention status and those for safekeeping in selected cases. On the other hand, the community-based corrections pertain to probation and parole. These are being managed by the Parole and Probation Administration of the Department of Justice. PPA conducts a post-sentence investigation of petitioners for probation as referred by the courts, as well as the pre-parole or pre-executive clemency investigation for those referred by the Board of Pardons and Parole to determine the suitability of the offender to be reintegrated in the community instead of serving their sentence inside an institution or prison. The PPA further supervises probationers and parolees and conditional pardonees to promote their rehabilitation and reintegration to the mainstream of the society. It mobilizes the community resources, especially through volunteer probation aids. The fifth pillar is the community pillar. It is composed of institutions such as the Department of Social Welfare and Development, Commission on Human Rights, National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, Public Attorney's Office, barangays, civic organizations, and non-governmental organizations. Members of the community pillar are regarded to be both duty holders and claim holders in the administration of justice. As duty holders, they have the responsibility to assist the law enforcement and the courts in solving crime by providing information, by community participation in crime prevention and creating a culture of peace, and by supporting the mobilization of resources for peace and order. As claim holders, they are the beneficiaries of the justice system and they play critical roles in holding system duty holders accountable. Likewise, it is emphasized that the community as a subsystem of the whole cyclical process is the most critical and useful component of the criminal justice system considering its massive and pervasive composition. This also plays a crucial role towards the society's common goal of a fair and equal administration of justice, either victims or criminals. The importance of the community pillar cannot be overemphasized. In its own manner, it ideally participates in two main responsive roles of the criminal justice system. First, that of crime prevention, and second, that of victim prevention. As for the first, this pillar collectively imposes limitations on individual behavior of citizens that deter criminality and criminal behavior for the common good of civilized and democratic society. Meanwhile, in relation to the second, it has been recommended that communities must disseminate more information regarding the roles and functions of other components of the criminal justice system, as well as broaden its own in order to responsibly contribute to the victimization prevention. Ultimately, criminals will come from the community and some will turn to it. From this alone, it can be seen how much impact the community pillar can have in the rendition of justice. By participating in government programs, though not entirely related to the criminal justice system, such as livelihood programs, and can therefore help lessen the crime by diverting what would be criminal enterprise into something more productive. Additionally, by aiding in the capturing of the criminals and in their subsequent prosecution, they can likewise ensure proper and just redress for crimes. And that is the end of our discussion. Let's proceed to the learning activity. Your assignment will serve as your learning activity. Your assignment for this lesson is posted in your learning management system. Your learning assessment is the quiz posted in your learning management system. For the references used in the lesson, these are my sources. For the graphics or pictures used in this presentation, these are the internet sources.